Master Armorer David Chen was 3 hours into what should have been a routine repair job when he realized that working on Queen Lyraliai's armor was unlike anything he'd encountered in 15 years of crafting specialized equipment for diplomats, warriors, and the occasional eccentric collector who thought owning alien weaponry made them interesting at parties. The Valethra Empire's ceremonial battle armor was a masterpiece of living metal technology that seemed to breathe with its own intelligence, responding to bioelectric fields and emotional resonance in ways that made David's human engineering instincts both fascinated and deeply uncomfortable. The damage extends deeper than initial scans indicated, he said, examining the armor with the kind of focused attention he usually reserved for the most delicate clockwork mechanisms. Your Majesty, this living metal integration is remarkable, but whoever designed the repair protocols apparently assumed that maintenance would be performed by telepathic technicians. Queen Lyraliai observed from her position across the crafting bay, her deep purple skin seeming to absorb and reflect the workshop's lighting in patterns that shifted with her mood. Her pointed ears, more dramatically curved than other alien species David had encountered, moved subtly as she tracked sounds beyond human hearing range. Valethra armor is designed to bond with its wearer, she explained, her voice carrying harmonics that made the living metal components resonate softly. The repair process requires understanding not just the mechanical structure, but the emotional connection between warrior and equipment. David nodded, though he suspected his human understanding of emotional connection was probably inadequate for alien biotechnology. I'll do my best, Your Majesty. Though I should warn you, human repair techniques tend to emphasize durability over elegance. I have observed your work, Master Chen, Queen Lyraliai said, settling gracefully onto a workbench that she somehow managed to make look like a throne. Your approach to craftsmanship suggests you understand the relationship between creator and creation better than most. The comment caught David off guard, partly because he wasn't sure how Queen Lyraliai had been observing his work, and partly because her tone carried implications he wasn't prepared to examine too closely. For the next 2 hours, David worked in focused silence, carefully mapping the damage patterns while Queen Lyraliai watched with the kind of intense attention that made him acutely aware of every movement, every decision, every moment of hesitation as he navigated the complex integration between living metal and traditional armor plating. The bonding interface here, he said, indicating a particularly intricate junction along the shoulder section, it's not just mechanical connection. The living metal is actually interfacing with your nervous system. Yes, Queen Lyraliai confirmed. Valethra warriors share consciousness with their armor during combat. It allows for faster reaction times and enhanced sensory input. David studied the damaged interface with growing understanding. So when this was broken, you weren't just losing armor protection. You were losing part of your sensory network. The loss of connection is uncomfortable, Queen Lyraliai admitted, though her tone suggested she was understating the experience significantly. I can imagine, David said, beginning the delicate process of realigning the bioelectric interfaces. Your Majesty, this repair is going to require precise calibration. I'll need to test the connections as I work, which means you'll need to touch the interface points while the armor is responding to my bioelectric field, Queen Lyraliai finished. I understand, Master Chen. Proceed. David activated his specialized tools, designed for working with alien biotechnology, but the repair process required a level of precision that ultimately demanded direct contact with the living metal while it was actively bonded to Queen Lyraliai's nervous system. His fingers brushed the interface seam along her shoulder, and David felt something electric pass between them that had nothing to do with the armor's bioelectric field and everything to do with the woman wearing it. Queen Lyraliai's breath caught almost imperceptibly, and David realized that the intimate nature of Valethra armor integration meant that his careful, precise touch was being transmitted directly through her nervous system with an intensity that neither of them had anticipated. He pulled back immediately, focusing on his instruments with the kind of professional detachment that had gotten him through 15 years of working with dangerous and unpredictable technology. Interface realignment complete, he announced, running diagnostics to confirm that the repair had restored full functionality. Your armor's bioelectric integration should be operating at optimal parameters. Queen Lyraliai stood gracefully, the repaired armor responding to her movements with fluid precision that indicated perfect harmony between warrior and equipment. The living metal components glowed softly as they synchronized with her bioelectric field, creating patterns of light that painted her impressive form in shifting hues of silver and gold. "Excellent work," she said, testing the armor's responsiveness with a series of movements that demonstrated both its functionality and her own considerable combat skills. "The integration feels even more precise than before." The human approach to redundant systems architecture, David explained, gathering his tools with the careful efficiency of someone who treated quality equipment with the respect it deserved. Less elegant than Valethra design philosophy, but more resistant to cascade failures. "Practical wisdom," Queen Lyralii observed, moving closer to examine his handiwork. "Master Chen, your reputation for meticulous craftsmanship is well deserved." David felt heat rise in his cheeks at the praise. "Just doing my job, Your Majesty." Queen Lyralii studied him with those remarkable eyes that seemed to shift between purple and silver depending on the light. "Is that what you were doing when you touched the interface connection?" The question hung in the air between them like a quantum mine waiting to detonate. David kept his attention focused on organizing his tools, trying to ignore the way Queen Lyralii's presence seemed to make the crafting bay feel smaller and more intimate than it had any right to be. "Your Majesty, the repair required direct contact with the bioelectric interface. Any sensation you experienced was simply a side effect of the calibration process." Queen Lyralii moved closer, her armor's living metal components responding to her emotional state with patterns of light that David was beginning to recognize as heightened attention. "Don't pretend that touch meant nothing," she said quietly, her voice carrying harmonics that made David's tools resonate in sympathy. David finally looked up from his equipment to meet her gaze, and realized that the careful professional distance he'd been maintaining was about as effective as using tissue paper for hull plating. "Your Majesty," he said carefully, "I think we should discuss the philosophical implications of interspecies diplomatic protocols." Queen Lyralii's smile was sharp enough to cut through battle armor. "Master Chen, I think we should discuss why you've been avoiding direct eye contact for the past 20 minutes. As David struggled to formulate a response that wouldn't either insult alien royalty or accidentally trigger an interstellar incident, he realized that his expertise in armor repair had not adequately prepared him for the much more complex challenge of repairing the careful emotional barriers he'd built around his growing feelings for the fierce and brilliant queen who trusted him with her most precious equipment. "Your Majesty," he said finally, "this conversation could have significant diplomatic ramifications." "Yes," Queen Lyralii agreed, moving close enough that David could see the subtle patterns of bioluminescence that shifted beneath her purple skin. "It could." The air between them felt charged with the same electric potential that powered her living armor, and David realized that some repairs required more than technical expertise, they required the courage to acknowledge that some connections, once made, changed everything. Senior diplomat Elena Rodriguez found David in the crafting bay at 0400 hours, staring at a cup of coffee that had gone cold approximately 3 hours earlier while he contemplated the fact that he'd apparently developed feelings for alien royalty through professional-grade armor maintenance. "So," Elena said, settling beside him with her own cup and the expression of someone preparing to either provide therapy or document a diplomatic disaster, "how does it feel to have accidentally achieved the most complicated interspecies relationship in galactic history?" "I fixed her armor," David said plaintively. "It was supposed to be a simple repair job." "David, you didn't just fix her armor. According to the cultural briefings I've been frantically reviewing since yesterday, you participated in what Valethra call intimate craftsmanship." Elena activated a holographic display showing complex alien cultural documentation. Direct contact with bioelectric armor interfaces is considered one of the most personal acts in their society. David looked up from his coffee with the expression of someone who discovered that reality came with significantly more fine print than advertised. "Elena, she needed her armor repaired. I was just being thorough." "You were being thorough in a way that, according to Valethra customs, indicates serious romantic intent and potential life bond consideration." "That's insane." "That's alien cultural values," Elena corrected. Though I have to admit, judging potential partners based on how carefully they handle your most precious equipment is probably more practical than human dating customs. Before David could process that observation, his comm unit chimed with an incoming message. Queen Lyraliai's voice, with its characteristic harmonic undertones, filled the crafting bay. Master Chen, if you're available, I'd appreciate your assessment of some additional equipment modifications. Your expertise proved illuminating. David stared at the comm unit as if it had started reciting poetry in mathematical equations. She wants more repair work. She wants more intimate craftsmanship sessions, Elena corrected with obvious amusement. David, Queen Lyraliai isn't just requesting equipment maintenance. She's courting you according to Valephara traditions. This is a nightmare. This is fascinating, Elena replied. Also potentially catastrophic for interstellar relations, but mostly fascinating. David's comm unit chimed again, this time with what sounded like urgent harmonics underlying Queen Lyraliai's voice. Master Chen, there's been a development. Lord Commander Vex High has requested immediate audience. He's curious about recent equipment consultation protocols. Who's Lord Commander Vex High? David asked, though he suspected he didn't want to know. Elena consulted her rapidly expanding collection of diplomatic briefings. According to this, he's the most powerful military leader in the Valephara Empire and Queen Lyraliai's primary suitor. Their potential marriage alliance would consolidate military control under his command. David felt something cold settle in his stomach. So by accidentally courting Queen Lyraliai through armor repair, I've potentially interfered with major political alliances. Well, when you put it that way, it does sound problematic, Elena admitted. But look at it from the positive side. You've also potentially saved Queen Lyraliai from a political marriage she clearly doesn't want. How do you know she doesn't want it? David, she chose intimate craftsmanship sessions with a human armorer over formal courtship protocols with the most powerful military commander in her empire. Either she's conducting the galaxy's most elaborate diplomatic experiment, or she genuinely prefers your company to his. David considered this information while his coffee continued its journey toward room temperature. Elena, what do I do if I'm actually developing feelings for an alien queen? You could try talking to her about it like a rational adult, Elena suggested. Novel concept, I know. Before David could formulate a response that made sense, the crafting bay doors hissed open and Queen Lyraliai entered with the purposeful stride of someone who'd spent the night planning either diplomatic breakthrough or romantic revolution. She wore what appeared to be formal diplomatic attire, but David noticed she'd incorporated several practical modifications that suggested his influence on her equipment philosophy was already taking effect. Master Chen, she said, settling gracefully onto the same workbench she'd claimed yesterday, somehow managing to make utilitarian furniture look regal through sheer force of personality. We need to discuss the situation with Lord Commander Vex High. Your Majesty, David began, I think there's been a misunderstanding about my qualifications for royal courtship. What kind of misunderstanding? I'm an armorer. I fix things. I have no experience with interspecies romance, political alliances, or royal protocol. I'm completely unqualified to be courted by alien royalty. Queen Lyraliai studied him with those color-shifting eyes that seemed to see more than they should. Master Chen, yesterday you took damaged equipment that my own technicians couldn't repair and not only fixed it, but improved it. You identified vulnerabilities in our bioelectric integration systems and developed solutions that enhanced both functionality and user interface. That's just problem solving. That's exactly what I need in a partner, Queen Lyraliai corrected. The ability to assess complex situations, identify improvements, and implement solutions while respecting existing strengths. Elena looked between them with growing understanding. Queen Lyraliai, you didn't choose David accidentally, did you? No, Queen Lyraliai admitted. I've been observing Master Chen for weeks, watching how he approaches problems, how he treats equipment, how he balances innovation with preservation of original design intent. When I requested armor repair, I was conducting what you might call a final evaluation. David felt reality shift around him again. You've been evaluating me? For partnership potential, yes. Master Chen, I've spent centuries resisting political marriages because I've seen what alliances without personal compatibility produce. My parents' marriage was a strategic arrangement that created 200 years of barely controlled hostility disguised as royal unity. And you think courting a human armorer is a better political strategy? I think choosing someone who sees me as a person rather than a political asset is a better life strategy, Queen Lyralii replied. The political benefits are secondary to the personal ones. Elena leaned forward with obvious curiosity. What political benefits? Queen Lyralii activated a holographic display showing star charts and technological exchange protocols. Human Veilthra alliance would create unprecedented opportunities for hybrid technology development. Master Chen's armor modifications yesterday demonstrated the potential for innovations that surpass either species' individual capabilities. So I'm a proof of concept for interspecies cooperation? David asked. You're proof that collaboration produces better results than domination, Queen Lyralii corrected. The fact that I also find you personally compelling is merely convenient. David studied the holographic displays, beginning to understand the scope of what Queen Lyralii was proposing. And Lord Commander Vexhai will need to be convinced that this alliance serves Veilthra interests better than traditional military consolidation, Queen Lyralii said. Which means demonstrating that our partnership creates superior outcomes to hierarchical command structures. Elena grinned with the expression of someone watching an engineering problem resolve itself into elegant solutions. A proof of concept trial. David, she wants you to prove that human Veilthra partnership works better than traditional military alliance. How exactly am I supposed to prove that? Queen Lyralii's smile was sharp enough to cut through living metal. By doing what you do best, Master Chen. By fixing things that other people think are impossible to repair. David looked at the holographic displays showing potential technological integration points, diplomatic protocols, and collaboration frameworks that spanned multiple star systems. You want me to help fix interstellar politics? I want you to help me demonstrate that partnerships based on mutual respect and complementary skills create better outcomes than alliances based on military intimidation and resource control. And if I can't? Queen Lyralii reached over to take his hand, her touch warm and steadying. Then we'll figure out a different solution together. That's what partners do, David. As David studied the determined expression on Queen Lyralii's face, he realized that his accidental courtship might actually be the beginning of something unprecedented in galactic politics, a diplomatic alliance based on genuine partnership rather than strategic necessity. All right, he said finally. Where do we start? With Lord Commander Vexhai's arrival in 4 hours, Queen Lyralii replied. I hope you're ready to meet your first interstellar political rival. David looked at Elena, who was documenting everything with the expression of someone who planned to write the definitive memoir about the galaxy's most unusual diplomatic incident. Elena, he said, please tell me you have some ideas about how to survive royal alien politics. David, Elena replied cheerfully, I have absolutely no idea. But I'm definitely bringing recording equipment to document whatever happens next. Lord Commander Vexhai arrived at the diplomatic station with the kind of understated menace that suggested he could probably conquer star systems through sheer force of personality, backed up by the most advanced Veilthra battle fleet currently in active service. David watched from the observation deck as sleek warships took position around the station in formations that managed to be both respectful of diplomatic neutrality and quietly threatening to anyone who might have ideas about interfering with Veilthra military interests. Subtle, Elena observed, joining him at the viewport with a cup of coffee and the expression of someone preparing to witness either historic diplomacy or spectacular violence. 12 heavy cruisers seems like a lot of escort for a diplomatic consultation, David agreed, noting the way the Veilthra ships had positioned themselves to control all major approach vectors to the station. Queen Lyralii approached them with the fluid grace of someone who'd spent the morning preparing for either negotiation or warfare. She wore her repaired armor over formal diplomatic robes, and David noticed she'd incorporated several of his suggested modifications into the ceremonial design. "Master Chen," she said, taking his hand with the kind of possessive confidence that suggested their courtship was very real to her regardless of how accidental it had been for him, ready to meet the most powerful military commander in the Veilthra Empire. "Is he actually my rival if I didn't know I was competing for anything?" "Technically, you won the competition before you knew it existed," Queen Lyralii replied. Which probably makes it even more irritating from his perspective. The docking bay announcement chimed through the station's communication system. Lord Commander Vex High of the Veilthra Imperial Fleet, requesting permission to board for urgent consultation regarding royal courtship protocols. "Here we go," Elena muttered, activating her recording devices with the enthusiasm of someone documenting history in the making. They made their way to the main docking bay, where Queen Lyralii's retainers had assembled in formal reception formation. David noticed that several other diplomatic delegations had also gathered, apparently drawn by the entertainment value of watching alien royal politics unfold in real time. The airlock hissed open, and Lord Commander Vex High strode through with the confident authority of someone who'd never encountered a military problem that couldn't be solved through superior strategy and overwhelming firepower. He was tall, even by Veilthra standards, with the characteristic deep purple skin of his people darkened to almost black along the edges, indicating advanced age and extensive combat experience. His pointed ears were more angular than Queen Lyralii's, giving him a perpetually alert expression, and his ceremonial armor was a masterwork of both artistic design and functional intimidation. "Queen Lyralii," Lord Commander Vex High said, executing a precise military salute that managed to convey respect while maintaining an undercurrent of barely controlled displeasure. "I come seeking clarification regarding recent reports of irregular courtship activities." Lord Commander Vex High, Queen Lyralii replied with diplomatic formality, "Welcome to Station Aurora. I trust your journey was efficient." "My journey was filled with increasingly disturbing communications about your choice to pursue intimate craftsmanship protocols with." Lord Commander Vex High's gaze swept over David with obvious assessment, a primitive maintenance technician. David felt something protective flare in his chest at the dismissive tone, but diplomatic training he didn't know he possessed kept him silent. This was Queen Lyralii's show, and he was still learning the rules. "Master Chen is not primitive," Queen Lyralii said with steel underneath the musical tones. "His technical capabilities exceed those of most Veilthra specialists, and his innovations have already improved our defensive systems." "Innovations?" Lord Commander Vex High's attention focused on David with new assessment. What innovations could a human possibly offer to Veilthra military technology? Queen Lyralii activated her armor's diagnostic display, showing the living metal integration patterns that David had modified. Redundant backup systems that prevent bioelectric cascade failures during neural interface disruption. Secondary pathways that maintain armor functionality even when primary bonding connections are compromised. Lord Commander Vex High studied the technical readouts with growing interest and what might have been grudging respect. Practical modifications. Crude, but effective. "Thank you," David said, not entirely sure if he'd been complimented or insulted. "It was not intended as praise," Lord Commander Vex High clarified. "Veilthra engineering emphasizes harmony between warrior and equipment. Your modifications prioritize system survival over elegant integration." "Sometimes system survival is more important than elegant failure," David replied, his professional pride overriding diplomatic caution. Lord Commander Vex High's skin shifted to deeper purple tones that David was learning to recognize as aggressive alertness. "Are you suggesting that Veilthra design philosophy is flawed, human?" "I'm suggesting that design philosophy should serve the user's survival rather than the designer's aesthetic preferences," David said, feeling Queen Lyralii's encouraging squeeze on his hand. The docking bay fell silent except for the soft harmonic resonance of nervous Veilthra breathing. David realized he'd just criticized an alien military commander's entire technological tradition in front of a crowd of diplomatic witnesses. "Interesting," Lord Commander Vex High said, his voice carrying new undertones. Queen Lyralii, your human certainly lacks appropriate deference to superior authority. My chosen partner, Queen Lyralii corrected with emphasis, possesses something more valuable than deference. He possesses competence and the integrity to support his professional opinions. Chosen partner, Lord Commander Vex-High repeated, studying David with calculating eyes. Very well. If you claim this human offers superior partnership potential, prove it. What did you have in mind? Queen Lyralii asked, though her tone suggested she already knew. The right of choice trial. Your human and I will compete to demonstrate our respective qualifications for alliance with the Valethra throne. David felt his stomach perform several impossible maneuvers. Right of choice trial? Elena leaned over to whisper in his ear, think of it as a really important job interview with potentially fatal consequences and interstellar political ramifications. What would this trial involve? Queen Lyralii asked, though she was studying Lord Commander Vex-High with the expression of someone evaluating tactical options. Traditional challenges, Lord Commander Vex-High announced. Combat proficiency, strategic thinking, and partnership compatibility assessment. The winner earns formal recognition as Queen Lyralii's chosen consort. And the loser? David asked, though he suspected he didn't want to know. Returns to their previous position with the understanding that they lacked the qualifications for royal partnership, Lord Commander Vex-High replied with the kind of smile that suggested very sharp teeth. Queen Lyralii stepped closer to David, her hand finding his with unconscious support. Master Chen, you don't have to accept this challenge. Our courtship bond is already established under traditional intimate craftsmanship protocols. But not recognized by military command authority, Lord Commander Vex-High pointed out. Without formal trial, your alliance lacks legitimacy within the broader Valethra hierarchy. David looked around the docking bay at the assembled delegates from dozens of species, all watching this exchange with obvious fascination. He realized that Queen Lyralii's rebellion against arranged marriage had become a test case for individual choice versus military authority that would influence interspecies relations for generations. Queen Lyralii, he said quietly, what happens if I lose? Then we find another way to prove that partnerships based on choice work better than alliances based on obligation, she replied firmly. But Master Chen, I didn't choose you because I thought you would lose. You chose me because I fixed your armor. I chose you because you approached a complex problem with patience, skill, and genuine care for both the equipment and the person trusting you with it, Queen Lyralii corrected. Those same qualities that make you an excellent craftsman make you an excellent partner. David studied Lord Commander Vex-High's confident expression, noting the way the Valethra military leader carried himself with the assurance of someone who'd never lost a formal challenge. Then he looked at Queen Lyralii, whose color-shifting eyes held complete faith in his abilities. All right, David said, feeling destiny click into place with the precision of properly calibrated equipment. I accept your challenge, Lord Commander Vex-High. Lord Commander Vex-High's smile was sharp enough to cut through living metal. Excellent. We begin tomorrow at dawn. I hope you are prepared to demonstrate that human craftsmanship extends beyond mere equipment maintenance. As the crowd began to disperse, discussing the unprecedented trial that would determine the future of Valethra leadership succession, David realized that his career in diplomatic equipment maintenance had just taken a very unexpected turn toward galactic politics. Elena, he said quietly, any chance you have some crash course materials on alien combat techniques and royal partnership protocols? David, Elena replied cheerfully, I have absolutely no idea how to help you survive a trial with an alien military commander. But I'm definitely bringing professional recording equipment tomorrow. Queen Lyralii squeezed his hand reassuringly. Don't worry, Master Chen. You've already proven you can handle impossible repair jobs. How different can royal partnership trials be? David looked at her optimistic expression and realized that he was about to find out exactly how different they could be. The trial began at dawn in the station's largest cargo bay, hastily converted into something resembling a Valethra testing arena with Queen Lyralii presiding from a throne that Elena had helped construct from engineering components and diplomatic protocol cushions. The right of choice trial, Queen Lyralii announced to the assembled crowd of delegates who had apparently decided that alien royal partnership trials were better entertainment than breakfast, tests not just individual capability, but the potential for genuine partnership between candidate and monarch. David stood facing Lord Commander Vex High across a space filled with complex testing equipment, wearing borrowed Veilthra ceremonial armor that felt like it had been designed by someone who'd heard of human anatomy but never actually encountered any. Lord Commander Vex High, meanwhile, wore his own magnificent battle armor with the confidence of someone who'd been training for formal challenges since childhood. The first challenge, Queen Lyralii continued, tests combat proficiency and tactical adaptation. What followed wasn't exactly combat in the traditional sense. Instead of weapons, they were given access to a holographic simulation that required them to work with Queen Lyralii to defend a theoretical Veilthra colony against a complex military threat. Lord Commander Vex High approached the problem with centuries of military expertise, coordinating defensive positions and resource allocation with the kind of strategic brilliance that had made him the most feared tactical mind in the Veilthra Empire. David, who had exactly zero formal military training but considerable experience with system redundancy and failure prevention, found himself approaching the simulation like a massive engineering problem that happened to involve people shooting at each other. "Lord Commander," he said, studying the threat analysis, "your defensive positioning is strategically sound, but what happens if the primary command nexus gets taken out?" "Backup command protocols would activate," Lord Commander Vex High replied with professional confidence. "And if those fail too?" "Secondary backup systems engage." David manipulated the simulation display, highlighting vulnerability patterns that his engineer's mind had automatically identified. "You're assuming cascade failure won't compromise your command structure. What if we distributed command authority through multiple independent nodes instead of relying on hierarchical backup systems?" What emerged was a defensive strategy that combined Lord Commander Vex High's tactical expertise with David's systems architecture approach, creating a defense network that was both strategically sound and resistant to catastrophic failure. "Interesting," Queen Lyralii observed. Lord Commander Vex High's approach emphasizes military superiority through concentrated command. Master Chen's approach emphasizes system resilience through distributed authority. The second challenge, she continued, tests partnership compatibility and collaborative problem-solving. The second test involved repairing a piece of ancient Veilthra technology that had been deliberately sabotaged, a complex living metal artifact that required both technical expertise and bioelectric interface capabilities to restore. Lord Commander Vex High examined the damaged artifact with military precision, identifying sabotage points and calculating optimal repair sequences. His approach was methodical, efficient, and completely focused on restoring the artifact to its original specifications. David studied the same artifact and saw something different, not just damage to be repaired, but an opportunity to understand how living metal responded to emotional intention and careful attention. "Queen Lyralii," he said, "this isn't just a repair challenge, is it? This artifact requires bioelectric interface to function properly." "Yes," she confirmed. Ancient Veilthra artifacts were designed to respond to the combined bioelectric fields of bonded partners. It cannot be repaired by a single individual. Lord Commander Vex High approached Queen Lyralii with formal precision. "Your Majesty, if you would provide bioelectric interface support, I will execute the technical repairs." But David was studying the artifact's structure with growing understanding. "Queen Lyralii, the sabotage wasn't random. Look at these damage patterns, they're designed to test not just technical skill, but emotional synchronization between partners." He moved closer to examine the living metal components, noting how they responded to proximity with subtle shifts in luminescence. "This isn't about commanding the artifact to work. It's about understanding what it needs to heal itself." "Explain," Queen Lyralii said, stepping beside him with obvious interest. "Living metal doesn't just respond to bioelectric fields," David said, his craftsman's intuition guiding his analysis. "It responds to intention, care, the same qualities that make good partnerships work. The repair requires both technical knowledge and emotional harmony." Lord Commander Vexhai watched with growing frustration as David began the delicate process of interfacing with the artifact, not through command protocols, but through the same patient, careful attention he brought to all his repair work. Master Chen, Queen Lyralii said softly, the interface requires shared bioelectric resonance. Are you prepared for that level of connection? David looked into her color-shifting eyes and realized that the trial had moved beyond testing his technical abilities to testing his willingness to truly partner with her in ways that went far beyond professional cooperation. Yes, he said simply. What followed was unlike anything David had experienced. As Queen Lyralii's bioelectric field merged with his through the living metal interface, he felt her consciousness touch his own, not just her thoughts, but her emotions, her centuries of loneliness, her hope for genuine partnership, her deep appreciation for his careful, precise approach to both craftsmanship and courtship. Through the connection, David understood that the artifact wasn't just damaged, it was mourning the loss of the bonded partners who had originally created it. The repair required not just technical expertise, but the emotional healing that came from experiencing genuine care and partnership. Working together, David and Queen Lyralii didn't just repair the artifact, they restored its capacity for joy. The living metal blazed to life with patterns of light that spoke of hope renewed and bonds forged through shared understanding. Remarkable, Lord Commander Vexhai said, studying the restored artifact with obvious professional admiration. Your approach achieved results that pure technical skill could not. It achieved results that partnership can create, Queen Lyralii corrected, her hand still connected to David's through the living metal interface. Master Chen didn't just fix the artifact, he understood what it needed to heal. Lord Commander Vexhai was quiet for a long moment, processing both the technical success and its implications for the trial they'd been conducting. Finally, he spoke. Queen Lyralii, I withdraw my claim to this partnership. The cargo bay fell silent except for the soft harmonic resonance of the restored artifact. David realized he'd been holding his breath. Your reasoning? Queen Lyralii asked formally. Master Chen didn't just demonstrate superior technical skills, Lord Commander Vexhai said with something that might have been respect. He demonstrated something more valuable, the ability to make you more effective than you could be alone. Lord Commander Vexhai turned to David with obvious sincerity. Master Chen, I came here expecting to reclaim a political alliance through superior military credentials. Instead, I've learned that there might be better models for Vale'thra leadership. What kind of models? David asked. The kind based on mutual enhancement rather than hierarchical command, Lord Commander Vexhai replied. Queen Lyralii, would the throne be interested in restructuring military cooperation to emphasize partnership rather than dominance? Queen Lyralii's luminescence flared bright gold with obvious delight. Lord Commander, I think that would serve our people much better than traditional command hierarchies. As the three of them began planning a new model of Vale'thra leadership based on collaborative strength rather than authoritarian control, David realized that his accidental courtship had triggered something unprecedented in galactic politics. But more importantly, he realized that through the bioelectric interface with the ancient artifact, he'd experienced something he'd never expected, complete understanding and acceptance from someone who saw his careful, methodical approach to craftsmanship as the foundation for genuine love. So, he said to Queen Lyralii as they worked together to document the artifact's restoration process, what exactly does being your chosen consort involve on a day-to-day basis? Mostly, Queen Lyralii replied, her smile bright enough to power interstellar navigation, helping me repair things that other people think are impossible to fix. But now we'll be doing it together. That I can do, David said, pulling her close for a kiss that tasted like starlight and electricity and the promise of building something beautiful together. 6 months later, their bonding ceremony was broadcast across dozens of star systems as the first formal celebration of interspecies partnership based on emotional compatibility rather than political necessity. The ceremony combined Vale'thra bioelectric sharing traditions with human exchange of vows and included Elena as witness to the moment when careful craftsmanship had become the foundation for galactic love. Queen Lyralii wore armor that incorporated innovations from both species, while David discovered that formal royal attire could actually be quite practical when designed by someone who understood both aesthetics and functionality. And in the crafting bay where they'd first shared that moment of unexpected intimacy, a small plaque commemorated the touch that had changed everything. Some repairs require more than technical expertise, they require the courage to let someone else help carry the weight. The galaxy, it turned out, had been waiting for someone to prove that the strongest partnerships weren't built through conquest or obligation, but through the simple act of caring enough to do the work properly, together. David never did figure out how to explain alien royal courtship protocols to his family back on Earth. As it turned out, demonstrating the results was much more effective than trying to describe the process.